Hi everyone. So the next thing we are doing is creating a user service. User service should be able to provide us all the different operations like create user, update user, delete user, fetch user, search user. All those things will be available in the user service. So this is our user module, the root module. And here, because user module depends on the user entity. So we need to tell that, okay, this module can access the user repository. But for that, you need to initialize it like this type or module.forFeature user entity. Now, user service can access user repository. Okay, this is a user service which will have all the methods. Okay, create user for sign up. And I create a simple DTO, user sign up DTO, which contains, okay, the email, first name, last name, and the password, because that is the basic things we need for user to sign up. So for that, we are writing injectable class user service, right? We will inject the user repository. So here, this is how you will inject the user repository, because we need a user service. Inside user service, we want to access the user repository, which will help us to create, update, delete user sign up DTO. And here we will try to create a user repository first dot create. Now we will set all the parameters on the user entity. So we are checking if there is an existing user with the same email. Yes. Then we just say conflict exception, that email already exists, you cannot create new one. Otherwise, we will just create a bcrypt version of the password using hash password. This is the method which we will define. We'll get a hash, and this is the save entity, user entity, user input, and we are overriding password, first name, last name. We are just converting them to the lower case if the user is entering the uppercase. And then what we will do inside the try catch, we can just say user entity dot save, user report dot save user entity, and we can just log everything. So here we are creating a hash version of the bcrypt password, bcrypt dot hash, and before saving the password, we are just overriding the password of the bcrypt version. And here inside try catch, you can improve it like error instance of conflict exception, then throw it. Otherwise, just throw new internal server exception. Okay, because this error will be the instance of HTTP exception. Okay, a simple user create. So similarly, you can define a couple of more methods. Like, okay, I wanted to find user by property, like you wanted to search user. So I will just try to write a method, and you can just, I will explain. You wanted to search user by the first name, last name, email. Then simple query, right? Only the administrator user should be able to do it. Find one by email. This is the method which we will need later. You wanted to know, okay, this email really exists or not. We can just do email dot to lowercase, because we are saving email with the lowercase. Okay, then find one by user ID, and update also if we are supporting update. Find all user, that is like, okay, type orm dot user repository dot find, pass nothing, it will give you all the users. And if you want to update, right, if you want to update, like what all things you can update, can you update email, can you update password? So all those things we can just add. Okay, what are the new things which you want to add and update? For that we can write code. So that will be the CRUD operations: create, update, fetch, delete. Administrator user can also delete a user. So for that, you just need to do a simple operation, right? So let's take a look onto the user module. Here we have added a user service, user controller. So user controller, user service, which we are also exporting, because the auth module will need user service. So in that case, auth, because authentication, we will need a logic to find a user by email ID, find a user by user ID, and we will be talking user service. So in that case, the user on authentication module, we need to add a dependency of a user module, and we are adding user service inside exports, so that this user service can be used inside a auth module. Okay, let's see the authentication things in the next video. So now let's create auth module, auth controller, auth users. So here inside auth, we will start creating auth controller. I will just try to, we don't need entity, we need service. Yes, copy and paste them onto the auth folder and rename them, because here we will be writing a login, logout, auth DTO, auth module, auth service. That will need user service, And here we can just create, because in authentication we will be using the guard and lots of things. Guards, strategy, strategies, and okay, I can create DTO folder as a separate. Guard, strategy, DTO. Okay, so we'll be having activation guard, auth guard, strategy, local strategy, passport strategy, access token strategy. All these strategies we can add here. Now auth controller, what do you think inside auth? We will just create a simple route which will take a username and password. You will just write a simple controller where you will pass a simple username and password, and we will validate, and we will return the cookies. Okay, and then all these logic of validating things will go inside auth service. Okay, and we will be using the passport. Now let's try to take a look on to these passport strategies, auth guards. What are they really is, right? So for that we can go to the Nestjs documentation. So how these things are connected. Nestjs passport is a popular authentication library. It helps you to validate username password. You just need to create a passport local. All these dependencies you need to add. Then after that you just need to, let's say I created a user service. I did an auth service which is just doing a validation of user. Here comes my passport local. So this local strategy, what it is doing, it invoked automatically when you register a passport with your Nestjs module, and it validates the user because you are already passing the username and password in the request body. Here it uses the auth service. Auth service we will write that will use user service, username and password, and if everything is good, it will be able to push the user object, right? We can pass the option super, validate. What it is doing is auth service will do the validation. If the user is returned, passport can complete its task by creating user property in the request object. That's the important part of what passport does. So here we are writing a local strategy. What it is doing, it is validating username password. We have not written this code in the controller. Validate user, username password, and this user object automatically gets populated in the request object. If username password doesn't validate, it will throw unauthorized exception and you will get the status code in the HTTP, right? So it's like a very simple integration. So let's try to see how we can integrate passport. Here then you just added a passport module, local strategy, auth service, user module. This comes your auth module, right? So I will just try to add this here. Auth module. We'll add these required things like user module dependencies we need. Auth service we'll be creating. Is it not user module? Okay, add import passport module I will add. This is the local strategy I will be creating inside a strategies folder. Auth service we will be creating here. I will just change this to auth service. Lots of code we need to write, but it will be quick. Nothing, it's plain and simple code we are writing. Now what auth service will be doing? I will write a one simple method there. And then we will discuss about it for how the passport is playing a role. Here, auth service. I will replace the content. So here we are writing auth service. You can see it is importing user service. And then we are injecting config service, user service. I will explain you what is this line 21. When two services are dependent on each other, then you have to use forward ref so that you do not have the cyclic dependency. Okay, because user service also need auth service, auth module need user module, user module need auth module. So we are just checking email password. This is being called by the local strategy. Okay, local strategy will call the auth service, user service dot find by email, not found exception. We are comparing the password. If password match is found, we will create token and we'll update a refresh token. We are creating access token, populating the refresh token in the database, and then returning the data. Otherwise, user does not found. A simple validate method which we need. Now I will add a strategy which is access token strategy. Now try to read this, what it is doing. Access token strategy will come into the picture automatically because we are registering a passport module. Here, this thing will be used when we are sending access token to the APIs back. Here, this access token strategy will play, and what it will do is it will check. It will try to validate user, validate JWT payload, whatever. So first of all, this will be used when you are passing the authorization header in the cookies. So here, if we are going to get access token inside cookies, it will decode and it will just return us the data. Okay, because this whole thing will try to populate this payload inside a validate method. This access token JWT strategy will extract the access token, will validate that okay, token is valid. What is the token payload? Because we are using JSON web token where we need to use JWT.sign to create a token, JWT.verify and JWT.decode. All those things are happening with the help of this thing. This is actually passport, Nestjs passport or passport JWT is doing. Inside payload, we will validate okay, everything is good. Then we just return a user, and this user will be available on the request user object. So this is our simple auth controller. What it is doing is, like the same code we are doing. Here we have added a login, and inside this in the request body, you will be passing username password. So instead of validating directly by controller, you can also use a passport local strategy that will extract the email and a password from the request object, validate the user and provide the request.user object. But here we are doing it manually. First we are validating the password. If everything is fine, we are getting the response object, and here this response object is giving us the two type of token. You can see refresh token, update refresh token, generate token, create token, right? This is the payload which we are adding inside a token. Here we are creating access token and refresh token with the two different secret key that we will get from the all config service. JWT service.sign async. This is the data I want to put inside a token with the secret key, and this is the expiry. So it will give me the access token and a refresh token. I can just save that inside the cookies. So this is how I will be sending the cookies to the client side. Response.cookies, I will send access token and I will send a refresh token, and response.send response. This is just a simple way of sending a data back. So once you do the login, we are sending cookies back to the client. Now these cookies will be sent back to the server, and how we will be decoding them using this strategy, access token JWT strategy. This token will be validated, and here we are just passing the same secret using which we have created a token. These are like very basic things, and if you have done a little bit of Node.js, you know how JSON web token works. You just need to pass an access token and secret, same secret key. It will validate and it will provide a payload. Then you can also again validate the payload. Okay, user still exists. If yes, return the user. So this strategy can be added to all the private routes which you wanted to protect. Okay, so this is like a simple setup of user controller, auth service, user service. I will be adding more code on top of this, but there is no point of explaining much because this is the whole summary, how all these things are connected. We have auth. Here also we can write a local strategy if you want, like this local strategy instead of writing code, but I need to generate a token and lots of things I need to do. So this is the local strategy. This is auth service, and this validate user is being called by auth service. Yeah, local strategy. This is also you can create as a strategy. You don't need to validate the token. It will give you the user object, and based on that you can create a token and return the token inside a cookies response. Okay, let's update our code, and I will try to showcase at least the sign up and the login together. Okay, so let's see all these things in action. We have already created a user module and auth module, right? So I did a basic setup for this. We have all these things, auth controller. I just try to play with just a simple sign up and a login first, and then we will try to introduce more code. So here, this is our API v1 users. I will try to create a user first. Okay, so I will try to zoom a little bit. Let's do a demo. Password is demo hash demo. Okay, let's create a user. So we are able to create a user. Password is a hash. I mean, this is the hash. We should not just send it right away. Now what happens? I already created a user. Now I will try to log in. Okay, so try it out. Demo @demo. So this is username password. I will try to log in. And here you can see when I did this, I was able to get the access token and the refresh token, but we are talking about cookie-based authentication. So what happens when I just open this curl request in the Postman, and I will try to see did we receive any cookies header or not. Okay, there we can verify it appropriately. So let's open Postman or any client. So this is our Postman client. I will try to send the request, same, and you can see I will check the headers. So here you can see this set cookies. There are two cookies it is sending, refresh token and access token. Now whenever I send a request back again to the server, these cookies will be set and will be sent back. Okay, these are the cookies which I received. You can see in the cookies also localhost, session, HTTP only true, secure false, because currently we are only doing development. But when we are doing production, then we should secure true, HTTP only true, and it should be for particular domain. Not anybody else should be able to use. So this access token and refresh token we have received, so that we can also try and add refresh token mechanism. So now let's try to access our protected API. Now the next thing I'm going to do is access any protected API like API v1 users that will send these cookies automatically. You can say these headers have been added automatically and these will be sent with a request. Now when I send this, I'm getting, what is the result? Internal server error. That is true. I know the reason. And you can see it is not able to access token. So to enable, we are sending the cookies, but we need to enable the server so that server can read the cookies. So we need to add a middleware cookie parser and body parser. If you are from Express.js world, then these are the two middleware we used to add in the Express.js app to enable the application to extract the cookies from the request. So I will try to register that. app.use cookie parser. Cookie parser we can get from cookie parser. Cookie parser we need to add as a dependency, which is not there. So let's try to add a dependency of cookie parser. Cookie parser is really helpful module to extract the cookies from the request body. We need to go to package.json. Okay. First let's install it. And then we will run the application again. Now I can just hit this URL. It is saying forbidden. That means it is able to read the cookies, but there is something else. Now what is that? I know the reason, because I enabled the auth guard, role guard. You can say it is same as the guard. So let's comment this out. For now we have not assigned any role to this user, but what it is expecting that if this user role is system admin, then only he can access this get all user, because it's administrator functionality. I will hit this and I got all the users, right? So this is a basic authentication. Now how we are assigning the role and the permissions. So that can be like, we can bootstrap first admin user, and that admin user can assign a roles to the rest of the users. So we can check that in the local database, API database, like what all roles we are populating. So here, assign user permission, role guard. What role guard is checking? Role guard is checking the user.permissions. Do you have any kind of permissions? If that permission has a administration, so we already have this is the table. I will explain you the database table first. That will make more clear. So this is the permission. If you just add, let me check what is the permission entity. Okay, user entity, and permissions is JSONB. Permissions is a string. Okay, so I just need to add Markanis admin there. We'll go to the user controller, system admin. Let me try to add this permission there. And then I will do the logout and the login. Now we also need to check how we are creating the token. Okay. So we'll go to the auth service, login, right? So here you can see permissions. This is the information which we are storing inside the token, right? Once you log in, this token will be sent to the customer, client, and then this token will come back. And then we decode the token using this JSON Web Token. So if you are sending the permissions, then only you should be able to get it. So let's start the application again and play with the postman. Here is our postman. I will try to log in again. Okay, let me change this. Post. It will give us the new token. Even you can decode the token and see what it is inside this JSON Web Token. It's a JWT token, right? Here you go. I copied the same token, and this token has this permission string, which is system admin, because I manually assigned the role to this user. Right now, I will try to log in with the same thing. I will open my postman. So this token is already set. API v1 users. I think this was the URL, and I can get it even when I have set the role. So here inside a user controller, we have enabled the system admin role. So you should be able to get all the users. Let's enable this thing. Yes, I got the data, right? Let's say I just change the role to system root. Can I get the user now? Because it is allowing only system root. I will get forbidden. So this is called role-based authorization. You set a role for the user, and then that role we decode through the token, and then we are checking. And all these things can be done through these role guard. So what all additional things we are doing here? The token guard, role guard, we need to provide this metadata. I will talk about this, what I wrote here, this role allowed annotation. This is the custom decorator we have created to populate the roles attribute inside a metadata. So whatever the roles you have, that will be set inside a roles metadata, and that you can access inside a role guard. Do you have that permissions, and how we are accessing that permission? Using roles metadata. In role decorator, you have set something in the roles property using this controller, using this attribute. And inside this role guard, we are checking, do you have the system root set in your permissions or not? Not, then you are not allowed. So this is called a simple authentication authorization. In the next video, I will just talk about the overall picture of the code, whatever we have written in this. So let's talk about the summary, how all these things are connected. We are talking about the login. So inside login, we are using a two strategy. I mean, we could have used a local strategy, but that is not here. We are just using a JWT strategy. Inside this login, we are using the authentication user controller. I mean, user controller is just helping us to create user. Now inside auth, here we are using just a access JWT. I mean, this is a token strategy that is helping us to extract a JWT token from the request and validate that against a secret token using which we have created token, and then validate the user. Okay, you can also use a local strategy for authentication, like here inside auth controller, but we are doing lots of things manually here inside login. All these things of validate user by password, this can be done by local strategy to validate. So local strategy is used for validating user during login. JWT strategy is being used to validate JWT token on the private or protected routes. Okay, once you log in, we are sending these cookies. Now once these cookies reached to this customer, they will try to access other APIs like auth, inside auth controller. Inside user controller, we have added like get all users, assign permissions, get your own profile. That is just reading your own data. But any protected API, right? This get all users. So what all things we are doing here? First of all, we need a JWT guard. What this guard is doing? This guard is extracting this access token guard is using this JWT strategy. That is getting it is, you can say, a middleware, but middleware and guard both are different. Let's call it as a guard only. Guard is actually, before you access this route, I will get your cookies from the access token. Inside cookies, I will validate that using JWT. This is like a local strategy. So it is using this internally, this JWT.verify method. If your token is valid, then it will directly send the token payload to this JWT token payload, and it will validate, okay, you are a valid user. Then it will return it, and you get the user inside request.user object. And once you have the request user object, your actual logic, which is written inside this, will get called. So here you are calling get all users, but only if your token is valid. That is the first thing. Then user role guard. If your token is valid, but you don't have appropriate role, I will send forbidden. But if your token is valid, your role is valid, then I will allow you to call this method. That is just a repository method. Give me all the users. User repo.find, user repo.find with some where conditions is just a type ORM logic. So all these pieces are connected like this. So I will not explain much code like, okay, doing lots of things here, but the basic implementation of login with the cookie based, where we are returning cookies and then we are sending those cookies back so that we can validate the cookies and we can decode and validate the role. We are also using refresh token mechanism that can be used. I mean, the code is already written there in the auth controller. Whenever your token expire, you can hit this refresh. Okay. It is using this JWT refresh strategy. You can see refresh token guard. Whenever you hit a refresh, I'm using this refresh token guard. This refresh token guard is also using JWT refresh strategy that is defined here. The strategy JWT refresh, the same name I'm using here. That's important. I have two guards. The strategy JWT and refresh token guard. The auth guard name is JWT refresh. Same name we have to use here in the strategy name, and then we are doing the same. First we are getting the refresh token from the cookies, validating refresh token is valid. We'll check it against the refresh token secret. Then if refresh token is there, first, because refresh token we are storing in the database also, we are validating if refresh token is valid. Then we check the refresh token against the database. If everything is valid, then we just send it, and then we run the appropriate logic inside auth controller. Once refresh token is there, we generate a new refresh token, service.refresh token, and what it is doing, it is doing the same thing, update refresh token, and it is returning a token to us. So this API will just give you the new token that you can set inside a cookies or get it as a response. Okay, so this is how you will get the refresh token. I mean, here you can set the refresh token. Once you receive the refresh token, you can send the response.cookies. Because with the refresh token, you need to get a new access token. So it created a new token, create token, and it is storing that refresh token here. So first of all, when you are sending the refresh token, first we are checking the refresh token which is stored inside database is the same as which you are passing in the headers, sorry, in the cookies. If match found, we'll create a new token and we give a new access token. So what this create token is doing, if you see, create token is creating two different pair of tokens, access token and refresh token. Okay, and we are returning both the tokens to this call. I mean, we can just do the same thing here. We can send the cookies again back. And then response that send. For that we need to import response, request and response. So here we can just pass token.access token, token.refresh token. That's it. This is the only change you need. So refresh token will also work. You store the refresh token. When your access token expires, you send the refresh token call. We generate both the new tokens and send it in the cookies. So now the next request will be carrying the new access token. and new refresh token. So this is the overall authentication using token, using cookies based. Here we are just using this JWT token to be exchanged between client and a server using cookies. So it's purely a cookie based authentication process. Now instead of token, you can have a session ID, anything. I love using tokens, so I generated a tokens post login. Okay, that's it. So this is all about token based authentication. You can check the code and try to understand it. These strategies are just like complex names, but it's the same thing. This is to validate the access token coming in the authorization header. This is a local strategy, I mean JWT strategy to validate a refresh token. I mean, you might have heard about local strategy also. That is mostly used during login, but I actually wrote the logic of login in my code itself. So if you see the login structure, create user, where is the login? Login, yeah. Here I'm validating by myself by getting the request body in the controller, then validating user password by manually by writing code. Okay, so that's all guys. Thanks everyone.